So today I thought I would pop on here, since I have to do my makeup anyway, so I'm going to be filming a few videos, that I would film the books and makeup tag, which is a tag video that's been going around the book community for a very long time. This could really go on either channel, but I decided to put it here. This is me just talking about books and relating books to makeup as I do my makeup for you guys. So I thought this would be really fun. One thing that I will say right off the bat is my nails look like absolute garbage, but if you've been here for a long time, you already know that. But I know I'm gonna get at least one comment saying that my nails look like trash. So if I point it out before anyone else does, then no one else will, hopefully. Editing Kara here. So I just want to let you guys know that while editing this video, I realized that I tend to talk about the same books often. And I'm gonna try to get better about this. Like, I didn't even realize that I was doing it, but like, I realized that I could have picked different books for a lot of these questions, but because a lot of these books are like my all-time favorite books, it's so natural for me to think of them first, but there's no point making these videos if I'm going to just keep mentioning the same books over and over. So just know that I realized that in this video while editing it, and future videos will be better and a little bit more variety, if that makes sense. So sorry in advance. So the first question goes with primer, and it is, pick a book that has left a lasting impression. I just used the Aveeno Positively Radiant Moisturizer. We're gonna go with the e.l.f. Beauty Shield. This is the SPF 50. This has been my favorite one lately. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So you know how you go into like books, like self-help books, to like teach you a life lesson, right? Like you expect to learn something new. You expect to like have like this big aha moment while reading these self-help books, and you get done and you're like, okay, like cool, like I learned something new, but it like never really like fully sticks because you didn't really care. There was like nothing keeping you connected to the lessons of the self-help book. But then you read like a fiction novel that has like some huge life lessons, and they just stick with you for the rest of time because you were so attached to the characters and their journeys, that the life lessons that you learn in the book are like lifelong or long-lasting lessons because you learn them through characters. It's almost like you learned the life lesson along with the character. And I feel like with Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, there's these lessons that you get at the very end of the novel that just hit you so much harder and so much realer while you're reading the book because you care and you made such strong connections with the characters. And the like topics that that book covers and just the important things that the book covers, it's just so good. Next up is foundation. Pick your favorite first book in a series. So I'm going to be using the Il Maquillage foundation. This is in Woke Up Like This 050. So my favorite first book in a series, this was actually really hard for me to decide. I decided to go with Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. And this book, it's not my favorite series of all time. Like the whole series as a whole, I wouldn't say it's my favorite series. I love the first book and the second book. But the first book of the Illuminae files is so good. It has a, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Smart House on the Disney Channel. If you remember that movie, it definitely feels a lot like that movie because in Illuminae, there's a artificial intelligence. And this artificial intelligence is so freaking cool. It's called Aiden, and the way that the author wrote Aiden is so amazing. I absolutely loved reading all of Aiden's parts, but I think it touches on some really interesting topics like if artificial intelligence kind of creates consciousness, and what would happen if artificial intelligence started to have feelings and emotions and like actual consciousness, and it really touches on those things in a really interesting way. And if you don't want to read the whole series, I feel like you can read Illuminae on its own, and it works. In my opinion, it works as a standalone. Like, I don't feel like you have to read the next books, but the next book in the series is really good as well. I just hated the last book. The last book I thought was not very good, but next up is concealer. So concealer is, pick a character you wish you could get rid of. So a book character that I wish that I could get rid of. So I actually had no idea what I was gonna pick for this answer. I decided to go with a book series that well, not a book series. There's a book called Winter Song that I read like 4 years ago, and it was about the Goblin King. And I just absolutely loved this book so much. The writing was so beautiful. By the way, this is Smashbox Studio Skin Flawless Concealer. The writing was so beautiful, the romance was so beautiful, it was like very dark. It was a fantasy, but it was more of like a darker folklore fantasy. It definitely had vibes of like, you know the movie The Labyrinth, the ballroom scene where it's kind of like darker and creepier. It just had such a good vibe. Like the vibe was fantastic, and the romance is what made the people that loved that book love it so much, right? And I was just waiting and counting down the days for the second book to come out, and I was so freaking excited, and then it came out and it was literally the worst book of all time. The book didn't have any romance in it. The Goblin King wasn't even in the book. The book focused on the main character, Liesel's little brother, Yosef, and I was so pissed. So if I could get rid of a character, it would be the little brother Yosef, because if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have ruined that second book so badly. We could have focused on Liesel and the Goblin King, and we could have gotten some romance, and it would have been fantastic. But Yosef, little brother Yosef, had to go and ruin everything. That's who I would get rid of. Because in the first book, I didn't even give two craps about Yosef, and then she decides to make the second book completely about him. Like, please. So next is Powder, and Powder is pick your favorite last book in a series. So my favorite last book in a series, so this was really hard because I have never had a last book in a series be my favorite book ever. But I decided to go with a duology, and it is The Wrath and the Dawn duology by Renee Ahdieh. And I picked The Rose and the Dagger, which is the second book, and it's the last book. I know a lot of people actually didn't like The Rose and the Dagger as much as The Wrath and the Dawn. But if you guys watch my favorite characters video, the King Khalid, is one of my favorite characters because of his shy demeanor. And I just absolutely love his character in that book. And I thought The Rose and the Dagger was a great book. And I feel like I'm kind of in the minority because everyone liked the first book better, but I really loved it. I thought the romance was really cute. I love Shahrazad and Khalid's dynamic. I think it's a really cute, really romantic dynamic. And there was a lot of scenes in that book that I really, really love. And there's some of my favorite romance scenes in that book, which is interesting. And I just really liked it. I thought it was a good book. I thought it was a good ending. I thought it was just as good as The Wrath and the Dawn. So it's really weird because I have to kind of go in the order that they're putting these steps in, and I never go in this order when I do my makeup. So like usually I would go in with contour, but they have eyebrows next. So I'm a little thrown off right now, but we're gonna do it. So for eyebrows, I use the Anastasia Brow Pomade in Chocolate. This little brush, this is by Eco Tools, and it's like a little travel eyebrow brush. It has like a bunch of different brush tips on it. That is what I'm gonna use for my brows. And the question is, a book that you think everybody should read. So I feel like there's a lot of books that could fit into this category, to be honest, because I have a lot of favorite books that I would love for more people to read. But for this one, I'm gonna go with one of my all-time favorite books to recommend to people, and that is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. It is a book that so many different types of audiences would like. I just feel like anybody could enjoy the book Dark Matter. It's just such a cool premise. But a man who is a really smart scientist, and instead of kind of pursuing science, he decides to just become like a science professor, and then he gets married and ends up having a kid instead. But he kind of lives his life always wondering what his life would have been like if he would have actually pursued science instead. And then one day he gets kidnapped. I cannot talk and do my eyebrows because I talk with my eyebrows. So when I try to do my eyebrows and talk at the same time, it's hard. So anyways, he wakes up in a room, everyone's cheering for him, and he has no idea what's going on. And he ends up spending the rest of the book trying to find his wife and his son. And let's just say he has to go about it in a very, very weird sci-fi way. I'll just say that. And it is so cool. There's such cool twists. And it is such an entertaining read. Like, if they don't make that book into a movie, like, I don't know what they're thinking. I honestly think anybody who would read that book would just absolutely love it. I think like that was honestly one of the first books I've ever read that I felt blown away by. Like in the end, I remember like having to set the book down and being like, oh my God. And I just found myself like deep in thought for like ever. Like I thought about that book for like a week after I read it, just like contemplating it. It was that cool. Shadow. So we're gonna do eyeshadow next apparently. So eyeshadow. Pick a book that has your favorite colors on the cover. Now I wish they kind of would have picked a book that you could elaborate more on, because eyeshadow always takes me forever, and I feel like this question is not the best for elaborating. So I'm just using the Disney Designer Collection palette by ColourPop. It's a princess thing. This was in my last favorites video, and I'm gonna use Triton, which is that color right there. I decided to go with a book that isn't necessarily my favorite colors, I would say, but it's my favorite book cover for like color combination. I think it's the most striking book cover, and it's because of the color combination that they chose to use on it. Every time I see it, I just think the color combinations they picked is just so pretty. And it's Ignite Me from the Shatter Me series, which is by Tahira Mafi. And I feel like this book cover series, like I have my theories on it, because the first 3 covers were freaking beautiful, and then like the next 3 that came out like years later, they tried to do the same thing that they did on the first 3, but I don't think they had the same graphic designer, and so they're way worse and they're nowhere near as cool as the first 3. But the Ignite Me cover, I just absolutely love the orange and the greens and the blues together, because blue and orange are complementary, and so they just look really good together. So like the teal and that burnt orange, I just think is so stunning. Like every time I see that cover, I love the combination. Like you just don't see that color combination on books very often. You see a lot of the same color combinations, right? Like just cool tones or just warm tones, but you rarely see them mix cool and warm together, or like complementary colors together like that. And I just think it's so stunning, and I think it's just really pretty. But neither of those colors are necessarily my favorite colors. So I would definitely say, if we're going for favorite colors, I'm gonna go with My Lovely Wife in the Psych Ward, which is a blue purple kind of color combination. I'm a cool toned person when it comes to colors. Another book cover though that I find really striking because of the colors they chose is Shadow Song, which is the book cover the book that I was talking about with Yosef being the main character and how much I hated Yosef. The color combo for that book cover is really pretty. Like the red and the purple together, I think makes for a really pretty and really striking book cover. Because sometimes I'm more drawn to book covers because of the design, like if the art is really pretty, but it's really rare when I'm struck by a book cover for the color choices alone. And I feel like that one I was struck by because of the color choices, along with Ignite Me. So I'm going in with Magic Carpet. I talked about that color specifically in my last favorites video as well. I'm gonna put that in the outer corners. Just kind of blend that out, darken that up a little bit. This has kind of been like my go-to look, to be honest with you guys. Like this is the look I've been going for almost every single day. I'm gonna take some concealer. I'm gonna clean up this line. I never do this, but I feel like my eyeshadow is like out of control. Since when did I forget how to do my eyeshadow? I don't know. I do sometimes do this if I'm doing like a winged eyeliner, but not often. Sometimes I feel like it looks too clean and it's kind of weird. So I'll go into this color. It's called Prince Charming and Ray. And let's do right in the inner corner. Ooh, that's a pretty highlight. That's like a nice, really bright highlighter color. Usually I go in with one of my cheek highlighters for my inner corner highlight, because I feel like sometimes eyeshadows aren't pigmented enough, but that's like really nice. This is called One Kiss. And I'm just gonna go right here. Let's just dab it. Give it some glitter right there, some shimmer. Yeah. I hope you guys can see me and see what I'm doing. Okay, so next question is for eyeliner. Pick a dark and mysterious book. So I don't read very many dark, mysterious books. I read dark books, but it's not very common that they're also mysterious. But for this, I picked Ocean at the End of the Lane. So when I picked up this book, this is by Neil Gaiman, I didn't realize it was going to be so dark and mysterious. It is definitely dark, but it's kind of like It's not like so dark like you can't handle it, but it definitely has like creepy vibes. Like you feel like Tim Burton could maybe direct it. There's some elements where like his stepmom is like really freaking creepy, and it's like creepy for like kids. It's like the stepmom turns really weird, and like there's really weird monsters, but they're not like real monsters that you like picture in your head. They're like there's one part where it's like a house, but it's like a big piece of cloth that's like flapping in the wind, but it's like a monster, like a cloth monster. I know it sounds so weird, but it's just like that weird creepy where you're like, what am I reading and why is this creepy? I cannot talk and do my winged eyeliner at the same time, you guys, so I'm just gonna like cut to the next scene, okay? I feel like I wanna do something different to my eyes. I feel like I do this makeup look all the time and it's like really boring. How about we add, I wanna add like a really burnt red color. I pulled out my Naked Heat palette because they have a lot of burnt reds in it. Let's do like this one, in Fuego. It's like a nice red color. So let's put this red. Sometimes I wish my eyebrows were more arched because I feel like I don't have a lot of space to like blend my crease color up. Like, you know how some people have like so much space between their eyebrows and their crease? And so like their eyeshadow is like really blended upwards. Like I can't do that very well because my eyebrows are so flat and like all of my space is on my lid. I have no space like between my crease and eyebrow. But sometimes I wish I did because I love the look of like eyeshadow blended really high on a brow bone. I think it looks so cool. Good enough. Mascara. What is it? Pick a long book. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna go for the longest book that I've ever read, and that was A Court of Wings and Ruin, the third book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and I think that was like 899 pages or something ridiculous like that. In my opinion, that book could have been way shorter. A Court of Wings and Ruin, for as long as it was, that first half of the book was so boring to me. Didn't anyone else feel that way? Like when she was with Lucien? And I was just like, okay, let's get to the point. Like we all are reading this book series for the main relationship. I'm not gonna say what it is, I don't wanna spoil it, but can we just get these two back together again? I feel like it went on forever. Like I just wanted them to be back in the same vicinity. And that was like the downfall for that book for me because I felt like it went on forever. And Sarah J Maas is a professional drawer outer. Like she can draw things out for so long. Don't get me wrong, she writes really well. I always find her books to be really well done, fascinating, but she's really good at drawing things out. But it's still a good book. It's literally one of my favorite series of all time. I love it so much. It's such a guilty pleasure. Blush, highlighter, lipstick, contour. Who does it in that order? So I'm gonna be using my favorite contour. This is the Milani Silky Matte Suntan Bain de Soleil. And the contour question is, what book surprised you with how much depth that it had? So for this book, this was actually a hard question to think of because I feel like books with depth, like you know that they're gonna have depth in them, you know, like it's pretty obvious. But one book that surprised me with the amount of depth that it had was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. And I went into that book just kind of thinking it was gonna be your typical like fantasy novel, but that book has a lot of deep philosophical ideas in it that I really liked exploring, and I think it was done in a really, really good, well done type of way. And the two main villains, the two main characters that are kind of pitted against each other, are motivated by different things. And I thought that was really interesting as well because I think it brought up a lot of interesting questions. Yeah, I just thought that that book had a lot of depth in it if you were willing to kind of like dive a little bit deeper, and I really liked it. I really, really, really need to read Vengeful because I loved Vicious so much. I don't know why I haven't read the second one. I heard it's not as good, and I think that that's why I haven't read it yet because I haven't heard the best things. I also think, even though I didn't really love this book very much, it's definitely not one of my favorite books. It's a very loved book in the YA book world. Like so many people have this on like some of their favorite books of all time lists. They love this series. I had my issues with it because I feel like there was aspects of it that wasn't very logical. And I think it was just me like being really, really nitpicky. But Scythe by Neil Shusterman definitely is deep as well and has some very deep philosophical kind of moral undertones to it as well. Again, not one of my favorite books, but a lot of people absolutely adore it. Blush. Pick a book that had some cringe-worthy romance. So for blush, I'm going with Pixie. This is Rome Rose, and it's kind of like this shimmery pink. I don't usually go for shimmery blushes, but this one's really pretty. It kind of reminds me, do you guys remember Orgasm by NARS? This is like an exact dupe for Orgasm by NARS. A book with cringeworthy romance for blush. I'm gonna go with November 9 by Colleen Hoover. Now this book was fantastic. I loved this book. It was super satisfying. If you're looking for a romance that you're gonna be extremely invested in, this is the one for you. Like, there's some romances where, you know, they're fun to read and stuff like that, but you're not like invested, where you're like fighting for this couple and you're like, ah! This book, November 9, it definitely has that quality to it, but she definitely wrote the character kind of cringy. He definitely has like creeper vibes at points where you're like, dude, you've known this girl for like 2 hours and you're obsessed with the color of her underwear and her cleavage and you like don't even know the girl. Like, quit being weird. There's another part where they're in like a club and he starts like feeling her up and she's like saying, no, stop, like I don't want to do this right now, but then he just like keeps doing it. He like doesn't listen to her, and that obviously is very cringy. I heard Colleen Hoover actually fixed that part in the book, but still, like, if you can kind of ignore those few things, then you can really get invested in this relationship. You just kind of have to like turn your head away at some of those moments, you know what I mean? Highlighter. Pick a book that brightened your day. So I'm gonna be using the Essence Pure Nude highlighter palette, and this has 4 different highlighters in it and they're really pretty. I usually kind of just like mix some. So for a book that brightened my day, I'm gonna go with Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. Let me just tell you guys something about this book. I don't know if you guys ever feel this way about like contemporaries or just books in general these days. Like, I feel like authors are really trying to push the strong female protagonist like type of character, which is great, but sometimes I feel like they miss that mark a little bit, and what they end up doing is creating this really stubborn, irritating, strong female character that like can't communicate. And you're just like, dude, just can you talk to the guy? Just call him and talk to him. Like, stop being so damn stubborn. Like, I get that you're trying to be like the strong female character, but like a little bit of communication doesn't hurt, you know? And I feel like that kind of gets missed with a lot of characters sometimes when they're trying to make these female characters. And I feel like with this book, the female character is just so lovable. Like, there's just something about her that is so lovable. She never gets really annoying. I feel like their communication is usually pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's usually pretty good. And it's rare when I absolutely love the main character and the love interest like exactly the same. Like, I just feel like they made such a good couple and it just brightened my day. It put a smile on my face. It's one of my favorite contemporary romances ever. Has great like steamy scenes in it if that's what you're looking for. I feel like Christina Lauren like do steamy scenes, but not in every book. Like, I just read The Unhoneymooners recently and there was like no steam in it, which is fine. Like, not every single one of their books has to be steamy, but this one had some good steam, if you know what I mean. And the characters were great and it was just a cute book and it's one of my favorites. Last but not least, we've got Lipstick. Your favorite book kiss. So this is hard because a lot of books have really good kisses, like those really satisfying kisses, but I'm gonna have to go with one of the best romance books of all time. I bet you guys can't guess what that is. For my lips, I'm gonna do 1993 by Urban Decay. I talked about this in my last favorites video. I love this color. It is so pretty, and I feel like it's gonna go really well with my eyeshadow because it's kind of like a brown color. But for this question, if you guys don't know what I'm gonna pick for this, then you need to get on the ball. Like, if you like romance and you haven't read this yet, what are you doing? It is A Court of Mist and Fury. I mean, can we just all agree that that inn scene, the scene in the inn, is one of the best scenes in that entire book. I prefer the inn scene more than the actual like cabin scene, you know. I don't know, I can't remember when like the first kiss was between those two. Like I can't even recall when their first kiss was. But I feel like the inn scene was like the first like, you know what I mean. It was so satisfying. Far more satisfying in my opinion than the cabin scene. Isn't that a pretty color? It's like perfect, perfect color. And that is it for the questions, you guys. Pretty simple, but I'm gonna create my own question because you can't do your makeup without this very important step, and that is finishing spray. What kind of question can I put with finishing spray? I'm gonna say for this question for finishing spray, what was your favorite twist? Like that moment at the end where it like finishes the book off with a bang and you're like, whoa, I was not expecting that, but that book is amazing because that twist was just so phenomenal. And I'm gonna go with Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. It's one of my favorite young adult contemporary novels, and I don't usually like young adult contemporary. It's probably one of my least favorite genres, but Every Last Word, man, I love that book. And I remember when I got to that twist, I was like, what? Like, huh? Like, I thought I knew what kind of book I was reading. You're just gonna throw that on me? Like, that was such a good twist. And another twist that I really loved at the very end of a book was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Did not see that coming either. Like, I loved the book We Were Liars, or We Were Liars is what it's called. And I loved that book. I thought that book was so good and so well done. Like, I saw one of the twists, but the last twist, that twist literally made that book so cool, so interesting. Like, that book was just a really interesting book to read. I loved the vibe of that book. I actually want to reread that book because that's one of those books where like once you learn the twists and stuff, you want to like go back and like connect the twist to everything else in the book to like understand everything and like see how she incorporated it. And I don't know, that twist was really good as well. So those are probably my last or my favorite twist to finish up a book and just make it like hit you really hard. You know what I mean? So that is my video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys liked how my makeup turned out. I think this is really pretty. I actually really like how it turned out. I haven't done this much makeup in a really long time, but it feels good to get like really done up. But I think my lipstick is a little crooked. Where did I set that? Where is it? Is it right here? No? What did I do with it? Where did it go? Did it fall on the floor? Oh my god, I'm so irritated. Where did the lipstick go? How does a lipstick just disappear into thin air? Literally, I was looking for my lipstick everywhere, and it was literally right there on my desk, like right in front of my face. How did my mind not process that my lipstick was sitting right in front of my face? But I hope you guys liked this video. This video was just supposed to be fun and a fun way to watch me do my makeup while I talk about something else that I really like. And if you guys enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see next on this channel, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!